Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Welcome to the channel. Everyone who reads and must converse. Today is a very special evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Philliip Freedenberg. Hey, buddy.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's wonderful to be here. And it's very important that as we start, I just want to again express my deep, humble, honest, sincere gratitude to you for believing in us and taking time to communicate with us and let us talk about our unique story and our wonderful book. And it really means the world to us. And on top of that, it's also very important that I start by saying how deeply thankful I am for everyone that tunes in and has been supporting us and following along in this journey, because it's remarkable to feel like you're in the center of a community of people that believe in the same idea and want to explore and make the same discoveries, not only about the books we love, but what it means to be a human being and what meaning we find in books, in the relationship that we have with one another through our books and through our world. So it's a really profound time, and I'm just gracious that everybody's here and gives us this opportunity to have a conversation.
Well, I thank you, brother, and you're very welcome, and I thank you as well because as far as if anybody doesn't know, Philliip Freedenberg is a brand new debut author who we're coming up on the final week. We're within the final week. His debut novel, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots a Diagnostic, is going to drop May 17th. It is published by a Slovene small press called Corona Samizdat, which does amazing work. Just great literature coming out of there. It's somebody that I really enjoy, and I was really glad to see your novel coming through there. And buddy, we've had some good conversations, and
Yeah, I,
tonight
I value that.
we're going to really jump into it. The link in the description box will be for the previous videos. If you guys haven't seen the kind of we approach this thing from a couple of different places, different avenues inward. It is an illustrated work by Jeff Walton.
It is. And I can't thank Jeff Walton more for his commitment to being such a profoundly wonderful person in my life for 20 years, but also for having the work ethic and the passion and the drive to contribute what he has to this project, from the illustrations that fundamentally bring a groundedness to some of the more abstract and absurdist principles of the novel, that when they're untethered from a visual orientation, they may seem grandiose and kaleidoscopic and beyond the imagination. But what Jeff's illustrations in the book have done is anchored us into this new possible world in a way that suggests that this marriage of fiction and nonfiction and fiction and metafiction that takes place in the book is in fact something that's possible. And you slowly start to lose your ability to delineate between what elements of the book are occurring inside the book and then what elements of the book are taking place outside of it. And
Nice.
Jeff has really bound us to this believable, almost impossible world by suggesting how do we refute the symbolic nature of the images we interact with the world. And he's done a really beautiful and inspiring job.
Very cool, man. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. So, I mean, possibilities. That's something that us as readers, that's what we're searching for, to know what is possible and to search for what is possible within ourselves and to see other beings, other people, whether they're fictitious or not, attempting and doing and failing and succeeding and living and all this kind of thing. It's an amazing thing. And we love stories. All right. So you've said that and the title says it.
Sure.
America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. Okay, so you've said you want, or what the book does is develop this cult of readers. That's what the cult refers to, is the cult of readers. So I would just say plainly, what is can you state your aim in that way, and or your intent with the
Absolutely.
book?
Absolutely. And that's a very good question. And what we've strived to do from the beginning of what has been a profound and remarkably moving experience is create a cult of readers around a book, which in of itself is a book about a cult of readers that are striving to use books and literature in fiction as an artistic, creative, transcendental platform to express themselves and kind of crawl out from under the oppressive structures of a totalitarian organization in the book that represents a controlling government called the Total Information Control Initiative.
Well, I
And
mean, fiction and stories definitely have the ability. Transcendental is a word that could be used for sure. And
mhm.
these kind of there's stories that are, you know, even like myths, things that just recur over and over, that have served to break people free, age after age after
Mhm.
age.
And there is a woven mythology into the arc of the book that spans a period of time that is precedes civilization, and it explores the rise of a civilization and the fall of a civilization. It explores the dawn of a species. It explores the mechanisms by which the species may potentially be on the brink of extinction for a failure of the unification of a social and cultural consciousness that's resilient enough to resist the forces of control that have, in many regards, enslaved a civilization of thinkers and philosophers.
and 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 all that is a part, I mean, parts of humanity itself.
Sure.
And
And
but what you're I mean, I can see what
yeah,
your aim here and what your intent is, if I'm hearing correctly, is is just like an epic kind of and all transcendental might be a great word for what your aim is.
for sure. And I would say that there's a vibrant,
Transcending the medium.
yeah, there to me there's a vibrant, towering profundity to the world on an existential level as we relate to the world as an information system in which we as readers and human beings are compelled to constantly seek meaning. And the book explores this system as a process on every level as it relates to the conscious experience. And
Nice.
that
And
to me is one of the fundamental mechanisms of what the literature is trying to achieve through unifying readers, to
nice.
remind one another that through literature and through community, we
Right.
have the potential to do incredibly powerful things at a level that suggests that when we go beyond the symbol and we go beyond the object, the reader is striving to experience the world at a deep vibratory level beyond the simple function of matter.
Right.
So the book
Within themselves.
sure, and the book
Right.
explores these absurdist mechanisms and scenes through this traditional hero's arc plot quest, which suggests that through the engagement of your creativity at the most fundamental level, you become empowered to truly reimagine the world. And that to me is what fiction at its best is striving to achieve, is to
A new
allow,
paradigm.
sure, and allow readers and authors to have a conversation about the potential of us imagining new mechanics by which the world can operate outside the limitations of a system that we live in now that may potentially have a lineage of historical blunders and flaws.
Right. and I mean, we're not gonna, get away to do something that is in the scope that you're talking about. I mean, it has to um, take into account everything.
For
Um,
sure.
I am a human being, and I count everything that is human as a part of myself
That's right.
for sure. So I want to back away from it a little bit. We touched on the scope a little bit, but I want to do some kind of proper author stuff because especially in the video I did with Jeff when we talked
Mhm.
about the collaboration and how this kind of thing came to be, some of your personal journey came up, and
Mhm.
that kind of thing is very interesting. And I wanted to frame this
Yeah.
in and ask you about some of your personal journey as far as your musical
Mhm.
journey and being in a band and actually touring and all this kind of thing, neuroscience,
Mhm.
and also fatherhood, and
Sure.
just the quotidian, road less traveled
Mhm.
or the road most traveled,
Sure.
however you want to. But you seem to be somebody who has had a vast amount of different life experiences,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that that has prepared you in different ways for where we are right now. And I just wanted to say or ask it in the way of how has your abilities, whatever kinds of abilities that have been brought to bear on this, have affected your ambition, having you know being able to really be as ambitious as you're being, obviously, with this debut novel, and the amount of effort that you have dumped into it.
I
Go.
would I would I would argue that the initial journey begins with two critical components or variables, and that is exceptional ambition and exceptional, uncompromising will, founded in a vision and work ethic that drives you to create something exceptional, not only because you know that it's deeply within you, but what my experience has shown me that's resonated most strongly in terms of the inspiration to work 50 and 60-hour weeks and take care of your family and still say at 40 years old, today is the day that I wake up and I begin the magnum opus, is a willingness to create a conversation with people that resonates so deeply that you are never removed from the potential to inspire people to do great things. And
Yes.
I've always found that from touring the world in a band and playing on stages all over the world to being a professor and teaching
So
and
in the
lecturing,
band stuff, you kind of felt what it was like to inspire people like that.
not only felt what it was like to inspire people, but felt the deeper meaning of committing to trying to connect with a community to transform or inspire change, to argue that collectively we can use the arts to
Right.
bond and
Right.
build and
Right.
essentially say we share a collective and unified voice.
Right.
And my hope with much of this book, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, strives to do in its complexity and its imagination and its passion is to provide a voice to a community of readers that speaks together. And the Cult of the Cactus Boots is a harmonized message of unification and resistance that says there are certain aspects of the trajectory of the evolution of our civilization that we're not happy with.
That's a
And we
beautiful thing, brother.
and we create a survey of our past. And the book takes this look at the historical development of 400 years of civilization that in many cases is built on war and it's built on genocide. And we ask ourselves in reflection, is this the best that our species is capable of?
Right.
And where is the beauty, and where is the discovery, and where is the harmony of people saying that we have more to say?
Right.
And the cult of the cactus boots is this sort of deeply visualized manifestation of our collective will and our collective consciousness striving to connect through this unified field, which is a theme in the book. And the book itself serves as a meditation by which the reader or the cult member uses to move through the text itself to achieve a state of unified field.
Right.
And
So I mean, and what you're talking, you've said it, and also you're talking through this kind of idea of community building through and I mean, there's been a couple of times that I've talked with you that I'm just reminded of William Blake,
Mhm,
because he set himself against the status quo,
mhm,
and this is the kind of thing of high art,
mhm,
not afraid to really just go at it, because he was completely, as I see you are, at home in your ability to communicate it
mhm.
through whatever medium it is. And so it's just a beautiful thing, man. I am freaking chomping at the bit to get this freaking book in my hands.
And that means the world to me. And every day, every night that we worked till 2 and 3 in the morning, every moment that I felt that I was walking around navigating the complexity of the real world, I was carrying this labyrinthian, complex,
Right.
kaleidoscopic uh, novel in my head that I feel is going to provide for the reader what I believe to be a deeply meaningful, profound experience that will demand as much effort for discovery in the reader as there was effort put into the sort of Mandelbrot fractal structure that the whole book is nested in, for one to navigate the complexity of the information system, the book as information system. How do we derive meaning from language? How do we derive meaning from symbols? And then the book asks this deeper question on a metafictional level: what happens if we've invested the root of our meanings into a symbolic structure of language that has fundamental errors built into it?
Right. Nice.
What?
Okay, we're gonna get there.
Yeah,
We're gonna get there. Before we get off, I want to just kind of talk to
sure.
you
Yeah.
before we really just like kind of dig into the novel. We're definitely gonna get there. That is awesome stuff. But this kind of, you said something to me that was really just struck me the other day, and I thought that and I think that you're kind of getting at it now, and it is the thing of, we were talking about a cinematographer or movie director that writes, directs, uh
Yeah.
and they're all their
Right.
own stuff, all complete creative control. And when we brought this kind of thing up, Terry Gilliam, P.T. Anderson, Quentin Tarantino, these kind of people come to mind, that they have their own vision, they execute it themselves, and they are given almost complete creative license, and they have their own kind of thing. Well, and you said, if you have a dream, start it now.
Hmm.
And that was
I
a
got
beautiful thing.
I got goosebumps from that.
Right.
You
And
know.
and I mean, I don't think that enough people really know that it's never too late. One, because what it takes is what is inside you. If you have that, then it can come out and can flower anytime you want to feed that and give the effort to that. And very, very cool. So the last kind of thing I wanted to talk about just your personal journey through
Mm-hmm.
this is the environment of writing a book, publishing a book, um, marketing a book at this in this very unique time.
Mm-hmm.
Now is not like any time before. We have these kind of structures, information structures, social structures in place that have never been there before. Everything is so much more connected, and also within seconds of each other. You're of 14, 15 hours away.
Yeah.
But I can connect with you in seconds and say whatever I want, and we can have this kind of thing. And it's worldwide. So how has your experience been? And if you would like to say anything about the process of having an idea, writing your first novel, and then production and marketing and this kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
has been a whirlwind, I'm sure.
It has been a beautiful and inspiring period. And this time that we're living in now is one of the most powerful in terms of our access to information,
Right.
the proliferation of ideas, the ability for people to communicate and connect and share a vision and share a worldview and share a conversation that suggests that we won't be held down and our voices will not be limited. And all I'm trying to do with the book is start and expand the fire into others to say that I'm going to live in a finite period of time on spaceship Earth on a rock floating through the universe that
Right.
potentially holds for us a deep sense of meaninglessness unless we demand to make discoveries about what it means to be a human being, and each and every day wear a burning portrayal of what the quality and character of that experience on a conscious level means for you, and not accept anything less, and
Right.
join and say that we can create a better world and we can have a more complex and powerful conversation, and we'll use our books and we'll use our imagination and our creativity to say that we're going to evolve, and we
Right.
are not going to allow systems of oppression and systems of control and totalitarianism and all of these aspects that are a flawed system take design on the character of our consciousness.
Right. I mean, and I was reminded of this once before when we were talking, and again just now, of what Philip K. Dick was trying to do at the very latter part of his life, was breaking down reality and experience itself into pure information, and trying to understand that. What is it? What is going on? And
Mm-hmm.
he coined a term called VALIS, a
Mm-hmm.
vast active living intelligence system.
Mm-hmm.
And this being, whatever it is life and consciousness. It is living mind, but it is a God sometimes, a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual kind of construct, sometimes a satellite,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes perhaps a collective
Mm-hmm.
from another civilization
Mm-hmm.
that is higher and come through, and that kind of thing. And that kind of idea is something that we try to understand. When you try to understand what is completely almost incomprehensible, but we're here, right? We are here.
Mm-hmm.
We are thinking. We are it. We
It's
are what we're doing, what it is that we're trying to wrap our heads around with that. So let's get to it.
yeah,
Let's just jump into it because one of the things that you brought up, and I would love to hear you elaborate on it because you're fired up, brother.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Well,
You
one
you kind of framed this thing as primal consciousness, like even the subconscious impulses, prime the essence. It is
sure,
the essence of being human, whatever that essence is,
sure.
versus and on and up against the word war,
And I think
and
we have,
up against creative power,
yeah.
and up against symbols being maybe usurped,
Hmm.
or symbols being appropriated for this kind of um a kind of what that there's a conflict there, right?
Sure. There's a
What is
deep,
that?
deep conflict in the book, and I'll have to take it back just for a moment to kind of explore this interest in the book's investigation of the nature of a language system. And the book itself is a language system. And what is this process by which language replaces the world? And our sense experience is one that's derived from impressions of the world, and these symbolic interpretations, which in a sense ultimately end up being an obstruction to our to us as a species to be able to authentically experience the world
Right.
outside of recursion and mimesis and the sort of simulacrum where the symbol of objects.
Right.
And I think many of our cognitive operations occur on a linguistically structured set of processes.
Sure.
So in this way, many cases, our perception of the world and its meanings is derived from our language systems. So one of the main goals to me of the maximalist long difficult novel, as Jonathan Franzen referred to when he spoke of Gaddis, this idea of the difficult novel. In
I love
my
Gaddis.
in my opinion, the function of the long maximalist novel is to offer the reader entry into a complex, diversified lexicon as a means of exploring new combinatory wordplay, whose creative goal is to guide the reader through a new set of cognitive propositions that may allow one to look at the world differently, which then may inspire a deeper meaning of the world which we all collectively inhabit.
I love that.
And
And
I'm very interested in this idea, which roots in a proposition that Einstein made, that he stated that the mechanism by which we experiment with new creative thinking is to come up with new combinatory play by combining variables that have never previously been contrasted before. And the entirety of America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic, from long, sprawling aspects of word fever that has this Joycean Finnegan's Wake style deluge of verbal and linguistic semiotic information, is trying to create new patterns of thought in the reader by offering this idea to say that through the meditation of the language and its simplicity and its complexity is designed to try to inspire in the reader new perspectives by which to see the world.
I like that. I really do. And it's pertinent, I think, that you bring up Gaddis too, because what I see that Gaddis does is build something so chaotic and big that it actually breaks down
And that's
your ideas of it
sure.
are.
And the book is trying to argue this inescapable proximity that we as a species share from moment to moment with pure, intense, existentially terrifying entropy.
Sure.
And how do we compose systems of that collapse into beauty and
Right.
art and love and meaning?
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to explore in the book, is to
It's
say
very cool.
that out of the evolution of that entropy comes a beauty.
Right. That's very cool. And I mean, what you bring up, and I might be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong. You're right here. Is kind of do are you is part of your aim to kind of illustrate an ideal being, an ideal level of how to be human. Um, of course, this is subjective. This is your own uh, co- communicating it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a reader, we see somebody, an author, communicating what they know from their perspective, and then
Mm-hmm.
we internalize that and can and experience their story and this kind of thing. And if it is going to a philosophical level,
Mm-hmm.
high art, definitely um fighting against something, not satisfied with um humanity as a whole, that kind of stuff, then is it offering an ideal? Is it offering a pattern, or is it offering something that can be um, grappled with by the reader?
The book is undoubtedly striving to offer an ideal, which, unique to the book, ends up being the participation in the book itself, by which point the reader becomes the protagonist of the book, or ultimately the hero, because the book comes through this plot arc where Jeff and I and Rick Harsh are the primary characters. And the book starts like any other day, where Jeff and I start and we're built into this dystopian America, and we order a book. And then when we wait for the book to come in the mail, we decide to write a book. Then Jeff and I become characters in the book that replace the symbol and object of the Jeff and I. Then the book itself as a novel becomes the object that is the landscape of the entire uh, propulsive nature of the plot quest, which is, then Jeff and I decide we have to write the book, and he's going to illustrate it. And then we start receiving these voice transmissions from Rick Harsh through a Zenith radio. And then we have to navigate this absurdist landscape of impossible possibilities.
So
To
this quest, this journey that ultimately starts with you, and starts and very quickly Jeff, and also Rick. If anybody is not knowing, there's other kind of videos on the cult of the cactus boots that are going to be linked right down in the description box. But the text in question is "A Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas" by Rick Harsh. So there is an inception with those things,
Mhm.
but through the novel, the journey and the quest ends up, or becomes, undertook by the reader, his or herself.
That's right. And then the drive of the characters in the book is to get the book published under the deeply overwhelming oppressive forces of a totalitarian administration called the Total Information Control Initiative, and then
Right.
an advanced technology company called Neuroform that is offering people in a technology obsessed, short attention span theater of the absurd, which it appears that our entire modern landscape has
Sure.
devolved into,
Instant
is
gratification, baby.
is offering something through a Real American Patriot program, where they suggest that we can offer for you full consciousness replacement. We will remove for you the burden of the interior
we'll remove
experience.
the cognitive dissonance, and you can
Sure.
just be happy.
And then it's at the pursuit of pleasure. It's in
Right.
exchange for consciousness.
At the pursuit of pleasure, a la Brave New World.
And in this case, it's dopamine. It's this
Right.
recurring desire to instantaneously be flooded with new, meaningless technological deluge of information.
Meaningless validation.
And it becomes so overwhelming under the deluge of data of a human being that can have 6,000 thoughts a day, who is
Right.
also exposed sometimes to upwards of 12,000 bits of media information today. And how is
Right.
one under those extreme pressures,
Right.
through conscious limitation and cognitive gating, how is one expected to be able to construct meaning out of that
Right.
sea? So the
Right.
book in terms of a diagnostic, that means that it's an index of ideas. It's this indexical sequence of ideas presented as an information system that the reader, him or herself, has to move through just in parallel with the character of Jeff and I, to be able to negotiate this overwhelming deluge of data and information in
Sure.
the text.
Sure.
And that involves exploration of history and neuroscience and psychology and alchemy and mysticism,
Right.
and all of these things that we're seeking meaning from. And I hope it's an inspiring and beautiful experience where people come out the other side and say, I have connected to something that's deep here, and I may not know initially what it is, but I feel that I'm hoping that we're awakening.
Right.
You know?
And yeah, that kind of idea of transcendental comes up again then.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, I was thinking about this kind of thing that you're illustrating there when I came across that Gertrude Stein that I shared, that people are so inundated with information, so much information now, that they lose their common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they they are alienated from a part of themselves because there's so much out there to just constantly keep you distracted, or chasing the carrot,
Mm-hmm.
chasing that dangling carrot
Mm-hmm.
out in front of you. So I want to I want to move straight into a little bit more depth. If you want to share something that hasn't been shared before, if you want to I wanted to ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt that the work that you're talking about is complex, right?
Right.
Even if some of it, what percentage of it I don't know, but if some of it is just that kind of let it wash over you, so that you can try to make some sense of something new.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to necessarily break down every little thing, but it is a complex work. Is this work accessible?
The work is deeply accessible on a central level, because no different than any other American novel, it contains a central narrative architecture built around a point A to point B goal that two people have to overcome tremendous conflict and absurdity to achieve a sort of success. And that book is in your hands. And what it does too is there's a very absurdist cinematic quality to it that is designed to be extremely visual, and almost hallucinatory in these sequences that go on in the book. And what I want to do is just kind of run through. I broke out some little ideas from the book to share with people, because I respect that this far in the journey, we've sort of shared little about some of the content of the interior of the book, just built on this sort of mystique of I've just been saying it's a book about writing a book while waiting for a book to come in the mail, which is true. But there is a deeply entertaining, absurdist humor to the book that I just want to go through a little bit here and just give you some ideas of content from the book. And in a way, it references the cover of the book. If anyone takes a look when they can at the cover of the book, Jeff and I worked through the entire cover as the book was being written, creating reference to all of these plot points in the book. And every iconographic sort of glyph on the cover is a key to a central part of the book. But just to give some people a look at some of the fun in terms of the creative play that takes place in the book, there's a alphabetically disorganized lagoon full of talking frogs that relates to a young Herbert Hoover dropping a wooden toy bilboquet in 1884 in the book. Then there's a character named Ivan, the hallucinating, invisible ethnobotanist, who lives under a table that loves unusual words that begin with the letter C. And Ivan also happens to be a championship extreme competitive ironer. And there's an 80 page section of the book that focuses on Ivan's exploits as an absurdist extreme competitive ironer. And
competitive ironing.
Yeah, competitive ironing. And that's
get them wrinkles out, baby.
And I want you to know that
I want it smooth.
I can hear my wife laughing in the background, because right now Heather and Jeff are the only two people that know what is contained in the book. And there's a brilliant absurdist humor in the book. Also on a deeper level too, and these are just ideas to give people, like, why would you want to buy the book? Why would you want to invest in a 600-page novel? And I always think, if I was sitting at home and a guy with white glasses was telling me this, I would leave now to try to buy the book, only because I'm no different than every other reader. I want the next powerful, ridiculous, maximalist book. So we have a macroscopic vibrational organite transmutation universal life force energy fiction generator, which is a non-terrestrial fiction composition device used by the author of the book.
Well, and see, that right there is kind of hearkening to what I was saying with Valus there. I mean, kind of like it is an alien technology.
Sure. And that is the author.
and that is your conduit for this expression.
If you look at the cover of the book, there are cortex antennas. And throughout the book, there are these ideas that this sort of universal divine glass fractal cactus that's connected to the unified field is outputting cognitive conscious data and energy through the book, which is a consciousness for readers to unify in.
Nice.
So I asked
right there, that link, that's where you can see the cover in full, and you can see this cover is a collage that is just there's so much going on. And you said, I mean, every single part of this cover has has to do with the contents of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is an amazing.
Yeah. So we're asking the reader to open and tune the cortex antenna to the infinite consciousness. And once you do this, you open an energy field with the text itself in the book, where it then becomes a consciousness, which through mechanisms of astral projection, you can move through the text as a cult object to transcend the limitation of this sort of material realm.
Are you talking about the word tunnels there?
This is the unified field. The word tunnels I'll touch on. I just want to share too, like this book proposes an alternative timeline where the most popular form of music in the timeline of the book is something called vehicle impact chamber music. And this is chamber music that's recorded from car crashes, because there's a character in the book named Linda von Brunner who operates a machine called the Motor Vehicle Collision Random Prediction Selection Probability Location Generator, which outputs data to a facility in Lincoln, Nebraska, known as the International Newton-Borman Conservatory for Vehicle Impact Chamber Music, that concerns the location of possible car crashes. So when people get up in the morning, they can check the data output at this center in Nebraska in their city to get a feel for the probability of a car crash occurring at intersections that they drive in. But what this has also done is that this has created an interest of musicians that want to get access to car crash sounds to build in to chamber quartet compositions using car crash sounns.
Right.
and I feel that this is beautiful.
I mean, it is. Is it? I mean, so, I mean, you've said straight out that there's an absurdist.
It's deep. It's
you know. But is there? I mean, is there commentary? Is it satirical?
It's a collection of both. It's a commentary on the profound existential absurdity again of this idea that we're a species seeking meaning on a rock in space.
Right.
And what is the limitation of our language system and the information systems that we develop to serve as these information loops that are constantly feedbacking information to suggest that you are alive in the world. And that exploration to me is deeply fascinating. But what happens somewhere along the way when the recursive feedback loop of the self-identifying conscious experience loses itself in the complexity of its own language and its own symbol structure? And the book explores this possible existential horror of being lost in a sea of language, which ultimately in our text, in our literature, in our books, distances us from meaning. And what does that mean for the preservation of our species?
Nice.
There's an Eleanor Roosevelt moon base. There's a Dick Cheney particle accelerator.
I saw some of the visuals of the Dick Cheney particle accelerator. Let me tell you, I don't want no part of it.
Yeah. So there's a scene in the book where Dick Cheney is at the secret society Bohemian Grove meeting, and there's a young kid who sells milkshakes at the George Bush cabins at Bohemian Grove.
Right.
And they're performing the creation of care ceremony. And Dick Cheney unexpectedly gets portions of his soul fragments blown out of his body. And the kid selling milkshakes gets some of those soul fragments and hangs on to them. Then 10 or 15 years later, he's hanging on to these soul fragments of Dick Cheney. And he wants to buy the new Call of Duty where he can be a pretend army man. And he's hard up for cash.
Right.
So he ends up selling the Dick Cheney soul fragments in the form of the Cheney particle accelerator to Jeff, who then gets some cash to start our business.
Well, you got to get money somewhere.
Yeah, right. The poor kid. And maybe that's a commentary on the interest of our youth. If I had to evaluate whether or not I'd want a Dick Cheney soul fragment particle accelerator or a Call of Duty, I unquestionably would have to choose the Cheney soul fragments.
So I saw, and I wanna just touch on this because there is a commenter that said this just now,
Yeah,
that we have a Hofstadter fan up in here.
I am. Oh,
I know.
do we
I
have
know.
one talking?
You
Oh,
and me. I mean,
yeah,
I love what I've gone through of his
absolutely.
work already, but I saw your post there, and I
Yeah,
wanted to just kind of just bring that out because
yeah.
it's epic. It's epic in its scope,
Sure, sure.
and man, this is something that is just unbelievable. I wanna say and bring out exactly because we're within the last week of it.
Yeah, yeah.
The the um the press that is bringing it forward is coronasamas.com.
Press. Yes.
That's who's doing it.
Yeah.
There is 6 days between now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly how many we got signed first printing
Yeah.
uh to go,
Right.
but this is where you get that.
I and
And
it means the world to us at this point that we've sold 60 books as of today, and every part of me feels in that community of people that have believed in us and supported the book and get excited about exploring a maximalist, experimental, absurdist work of fiction. To me, I truly feel at home in the world knowing that there are people that are passionate about this. And I would take this moment to say directly to you, I derive meaning and comfort in all of the entropy and all of the chaos of what it feels like to be a human being in the world today. And it should be okay for us to say that it's challenging and it's difficult,
right.
but know that we share a common thread that is beautiful and powerful and unstoppable,
That's right.
and you are a part of it.
Right.
And it is not about me, and it is not about the book as much as it is about the cult of the cactus boots being an unstoppable movement of intelligent, creative, passionate, world building human beings that are tired of living in a world that has fundamentally failed us on so many levels.
That's right. Man, I love it. I tell you, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to read it. Phillipp, this has been an amazing um almost hour that we've killed. And
Yeah,
I think that we got everybody sufficiently ready. So
yeah,
here's where you can find all the information about the book. Here is the press in Slovenia that is printing the book. It's being printed right now. It will be available on the 17th.
yeah. And
And if you want the
it's,
first,
I can't
this is how you get
express
the first edition.
I can't express my thanks to Rick Harsh, who from the day I asked him if we could have his blessing to write a book which he would be a character in, he has supported us and given us so much belief and inspiration. It's been a profoundly inspiring experience. And I
This
also, it's very important, I'm deeply lucky and humbled that I have a small group of beautiful, intelligent, passionate people around me, because my wife edited the book and sat tirelessly with me every single night
so good.
as Rick said the two of you just have to put goggles on and get rubber forks and hunker down and do the work you have to do.
Just do it.
But
That's right.
the book would not be what it
And
is
you
with,
have an awesome illustrator in your
yeah.
midst.
And I have Jeff and I have Rick and I have Heather, and we're striving to share something moving and unique with people that shows a new look at a new possible world. And I just think that before I end, I'd like to just share a small portion of the book to just leave on that note, if I may.
Do it. Do it. I'd love to hear it.
This starts chapter 2 of the book, which starts with a neuroform image that suggests, have you considered full consciousness replacement? Contact your local neuroform agency today. This is from page 44 of the book. The first stars appeared 40 million years ago. Then shortly thereafter, we were all there to watch them converge. Tilman Impichin Rojaiv imagined us long before even he knew that we would become these words. Pataphysics, a reimagined guide to the elementary particles of the not so familiar place called the here and now, is the house that we carry ourselves within. We live nested gently within the halls of this sacred library. We are constantly attempting to make stable models of an erratic and changing world. We're conditioned to look away from the possible patterns emerging from the chaos in our lives. We are coordinated, and we are instead, due to matters of self-preservation, conditioned to look away from patterns only in the neatly presented deterministic happenstance order of our lives, as we well insulate ourselves from all of the entropy. But these orders are not the outcome of our neatly conceived, heroically constructed subjective designs. They are instead naturally occurring systemic outcomes of a trillion preceding molecular collisions that are now just taking their final shape before us, appearing as if our simple observation of it all in some way played a role in the creation of it all. But rather we have had little to do with the control, creation, and orientation of it all, the grandiose masquerade, as we are all just the beautiful peripheral chaos of it all. We are all just random groupings of chaotic, nonlinear, organic aberrations. Yet when the messiness and the noise of it all settles down, we reorientate our collective consciousness back into the singular harnessed locus of our attention. And it is then and only then that we appear in fruition. There we are, poof, epiphenomenal and emergent, as the illusory self begins looking introspectively back on itself, as the candle is once again temporarily illuminated and life begins, when the world stops reading and we finally murder the word, it will be then and only then that we may signal toward the decay of our brilliance.
Yes, brother. Yes. Man, I can't wait. Ends run true to origins, baby.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's
thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll leave on that. Hey, to anybody that's in the chat now and anybody who's watching after Friday night, my normal Friday live, I will be hanging out with Philliip Freedenberg here and Jeff Walton, the illustrator of America, the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a Diagnostic. We will be hanging out, talking books, talking lit, having a good time, and it will be an open Q&A for anybody who wants to come by. Thank you very much, Phil. I'll see you Friday, brother.
Thank you.
Catch you next time. See you Friday.